for the happy couple.
Oh my God, what is that?
I'm sorry.
What is it?
It's the morning.
Hello, welcome to our RecapPlus channel with me, Matthew. Today we will watch a recap movie called The Proposal, released in 2009. This is a spoiler content video. So please turn on the subtitle and let's start the story. Margaret Tate holds the prestigious role of editor-in-chief at Colder Books, a major publishing powerhouse in New York. Andrew Paxton, her assistant with dreams of becoming an editor, eagerly presents Margaret with a manuscript he genuinely admires. However, Margaret dismisses it, stating her disapproval. Known for her commanding presence, Margaret is the subject of fear among all employees, who have dubbed her the witch. This perception is solidified when she terminates a top editor, Bob, countering his accusations of her menacing demeanor with criticism of his incompetence and laziness. In a subsequent scene, Margaret receives congratulations from her boss for securing a deal with a popular author. Unexpectedly, she learns about her immigration decision, which mandates her deportation back to Canada. Margaret suggests working remotely, but the company insists on a year-long separation unless she devises an alternative. She manages to come up with a solution. When Andrew delivers a message to Margaret, she declares that they have been romantically involved for a while and plan to marry soon. Despite Andrew's astonishment, the boss is pleased and encourages them to formalize the union quickly. By the time they return to the office, news of their relationship has spread, and Andrew's colleagues mock him for being linked with the witch. Margaret elucidates her predicament, promising to divorce once her citizenship is confirmed. However, Andrew opposes the idea, realizing that without her, Bob will ascend to the position of editor-in-chief, jeopardizing Andrew's aspirations to become an editor. Faced with a dilemma, they visit the immigration office. Mr. Gilbertson, overseeing the immigration office, questions the authenticity of their relationship and warns Andrew of the consequences if it's a scam. Despite the threat, Andrew does not confess. They are informed that they will be interviewed separately on Monday, and their narratives must align. The inadvertent revelation of Andrew's grandmother's upcoming birthday further complicates matters. Outside, Andrew demands a promotion to editor in exchange for his cooperation, and after some contemplation, Margaret agrees. In a surprising turn, Andrew requests a formal proposal. Margaret acquiesces by kneeling in the middle of the street, and he accepts before walking away. During their flight to Andrew's hometown, Sitka, Alaska, he reveals that he is well acquainted with her, being her assistant, while she knows little about him. Upon landing in Sitka, Andrew's mother and grandmother extend a warm welcome. Margaret discovers Andrew's affluence as they explore the town, noticing numerous stores bearing the Paxton name, and their seaside mansion turns out to be opulent. Margaret encounters difficulties adapting to the rustic lifestyle, and her struggles persist as she navigates the stairs to their boat. Andrew is irritated when he discovers that their parents have invited all their friends and family to welcome him. His mother is simply delighted to see him after 3 years. At the party, Andrew's father, Joe, greets the couple, and Andrew feels slightly intimidated by his father. The two don't exactly have a healthy relationship. Joe takes Andrew aside and questions why he's dating the stern boss. Andrew reveals that they are planning to get married and announces it to the whole party. His ex-girlfriend, Gertrude, is present and congratulates them. The group asks them to narrate how they got engaged. Margaret tells a somewhat emasculating version of the story, focusing on Andrew's sensitive and lovey-dovey side, which humiliates him. Andrew then offers his own version, emphasizing his masculinity and strength. Following this, the group playfully insists they kiss. The kiss starts awkwardly but gradually becomes more proper. That evening, they are given a single bedroom. After Grace and Grandma Annie leave, Andrew chooses to sleep on the floor. The next morning, Andrew informs Margaret that his mom will take her out with the other ladies. He hugs her to put on a show for his parents and then talks to his father, who is playing golf on the coast. Joe asks Andrew to move back to Sitka because there is a significant business opportunity awaiting him. Andrew, annoyed that his father brings up the subject again, refuses, expressing a desire for his father to have another son who would want to stay. Meanwhile, Margaret finds herself in a strip club with the other women. Ramon, the town's favorite male stripper, puts on a grand show for them. The women put a veil on Margaret's head and send her on stage where Ramon performs for her. Scandalized by the situation, Margaret goes outside for some fresh air. Gertrude comes out to talk to her, sharing a touching story of how Andrew proposed to her many years ago, but they broke up because he wanted to leave Sitka. As the women return home, they see Andrew angrily hollowing out a canoe. Grace knows this signifies his frustration and confronts Joe, berating him for pressuring Andrew into the family business, which will only cause him to avoid them even more. She demands that he rectify the situation. Margaret goes to shower, and neither she nor Andrew hears each other come in due to earphones. Sweaty from chopping wood, Andrew removes his clothes just as Margaret comes out naked. They collide, and their naked bodies get entangled, resulting in frustrated yelling. They finally find towels to cover themselves. That night, Margaret inquires about Andrew's relationship with his father, but Andrew avoids the topic. In an attempt to open up, Margaret shares some of her deepest likes and dislikes. Hearing her secrets, Andrew timidly reveals that he also finds her beautiful. They then sing her favorite song to help her sleep. The next morning, Margaret wakes up early to put on makeup. Grace knocks on the door, and they quickly cuddle up on the bed. Grace brings in breakfast for them, and Joe arrives, suggesting they get married tomorrow, on Grandma Annie's birthday. Andrew and Margaret accept, and Grandma Annie is thrilled. After they leave, Andrew expresses concern about his family finding out, fearing it will tear them apart and give Grandma Annie a heart attack. Margaret calms him down and starts massaging his muscles, inadvertently causing a moment of tension. She quickly gets up to serve breakfast, and now it's Andrew's turn to admire her figure. Later, they go to town to buy some items. Margaret uses this opportunity to find a computer and catch up on work, while Andrew talks to Gertrude. Margaret observed the pair with hopeful eyes. Grandma Annie and Grace escorted Margaret to a bridal shop, where they stumbled upon a dress that Grandma Annie had worn at her own wedding. Grandma Annie also gifted Margaret a locket with a 150-year family history. Margaret was deeply moved. Following this emotional moment, Margaret took charge of Andrew's family boat, steering them out to sea. There, she echoed Andrew's earlier anxiety, expressing apprehension about the potential harm their scheme could cause his family. Realizing the stark contrast between her own upbringing and Andrew's surrounded by love, she decided not to jeopardize that. Andrew skillfully avoided crashing the boat as Margaret fell in. Swiftly rescuing her, Andrew wrapped Margaret in a blanket, providing warmth and comfort. Back at his home, Joe led them to a barn where Mr. Gilbertson arrived to check on them. Despite the suggestion to confess, Andrew remained resolute about the authenticity of their love, disappointing his father. The wedding took place the next day, with Grandma Annie escorting Margaret down the aisle. During Ramon's officiation, Margaret interrupted, confessing to family and friends that she was marrying Andrew to avoid deportation. She owned up to coercing Andrew and accepted full responsibility. Mr. Gilbertson, smirking, witnessed Margaret's departure from the altar. Pandemonium ensued, prompting Andrew to pursue Margaret to their room. Unfortunately, she had already departed. Andrew discovered a note on the manuscript he had brought her, stating he would soon be promoted to editor. Venting his frustration to Gertrude, Andrew was pacified and encouraged to pursue Margaret. Outside, a dispute erupted between father and son. Witnessing this, Grandma Annie suffered a heart attack. Swiftly flown out on a plane, Grandma Annie made Joe promise not to pressure his son into the family business. She then urged Andrew to make an effort to be closer to the family, waking up later sprightly and healthy. Joe and Andrew exchanged amused glances at Grandma Annie's staged heart performance as she scolded them for their quarrel. Commanding the pilot to fly to the local airport, Grandma Annie departed with Margaret for New York. Mr. Gilbertson maintained his smug demeanor as the plane took off, leaving Andrew to arrive too late. Grace and Grandma Annie explained that Margaret left because she loved Andrew, thereby freeing him from any obligation. Joe apologized to Andrew for being too hard on him. Back in New York, Margaret prepared to depart the company, maintaining her reputation as people avoided her. Andrew, having sprinted there, arrived. He admitted to harboring intense dislike just 3 days earlier, even entertaining harmful thoughts. However, their weekend in Alaska had transformed his feelings, prompting him to propose. Margaret, acknowledging her difficulty to be around, hesitated, but Andrew insisted it didn't matter. They shared a meaningful kiss. Later, they returned to the immigration office where Mr. Gilbertson questioned the legitimacy of their relationship. Humorously providing incorrect answers, Andrew and Margaret revealed they still had much to learn about each other. The end. Thank you for watching.